Commander Park Ji-won gripped the metal railing of the observation deck as the space round Earth suddenly erupted in brilliant flashes of light, one by one. Massive alien ships materialized from the darkness, their hulls gleaming with an otherworldly metal that seemed to absorb and reflect starlight simultaneously. The Vorthan Empire had arrived, and they brought with them the full might of their conquest fleet. By the stars, whispered communications officer Hannari, her voice barely audible over the hum of the station's systems. I've never seen ships that large. The lead vessel dwarfed anything humanity had ever constructed. It stretched nearly 3 kilometers from bow to stern, bristling with weapon batteries and strange, pulsing energy conduits that ran along its surface like veins of liquid fire. Behind it, wave after wave of smaller warships dropped out of hyperspace, forming a crescent formation that seemed to embrace the entire Earth. Lieutenant Kim Min-ho's fingers danced across his tactical display, his face growing paler with each passing second. Sir, we're detecting over 200 enemy vessels. The largest ones are reading as Dreadnought class. Their energy signatures are off the charts. He paused, pressing his earpiece closer. Sir, they're broadcasting a surrender demand on all frequencies. The message crackled through the bridge speakers in perfect English, though the voice carried an alien cadence that made everyone's skin crawl. Primitive humans of the third planet. You have been chosen for integration into the Vorthan Empire. Surrender your weapons and prepare for occupation. Resistance will result in the complete sterilization of your world. You have one standard art to comply. Captain Lee saw he stepped forward from the tactical planning station. Homely in uniform, crisp despite the tension filling the air, as the leader of Earth's Space Marine Division. She had seen combat against pirate raiders and asteroid miners, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. Commander, our entire fleet consists of maybe 20 ships, and half of those are converted civilian vessels. We're outnumbered 10 to 1, and that's being generous about our capabilities. Park Ji-won turned from the viewport, his weathered face showing the strain of command. At 52. He had served in Earth's growing space navy for over 30 years, working his way up from a junior officer on patrol boats to commander of humanity's primary defense station. His gray eyes held a mixture of fear and determination that his crew had learned to respect. Options. People. I need to know what we're working with. Chief Engineer Lim Woo-jin spoke up from his position at the engineering console. Sir, our weapons are primarily kinetic projectiles and basic energy weapons. Intelligence reports suggest the Vorthans use some kind of adaptive shielding technology. Our conventional weapons might not even scratch their holes. What about the orbital defense platforms? Saul, he asked, studying the tactical display that showed Earth's defensive network. 12 operational platforms, each with heavy rail guns and missile batteries. Min-ho reported. But, sir, if those alien ships are as advanced as they appear, our defenses might hold them off for maybe an hour before they're overwhelmed. The bridge fell silent except for the constant beeping of monitors and the distant hum of the station's life support systems. Through the viewport, the alien fleet hung in space like a collection of deadly jewels, their ships occasionally flashing with internal lights that suggested massive activity within. Park Ji-won moved to the command chair, his hand resting on the communication controls. Round him, his crew waited for orders that would determine not just their fate, but the fate of every human being on Earth. The weight of 8 billion lives pressed down on his shoulders like a physical force. Sir, Nari said quietly, the Vorthans are requesting a response. They're powering up their weapons rays. The commander looked round the bridge at the faces of his crew. These were good people, skilled officers who had dedicated their lives to protecting Earth and its colonies. Many of them had families on the planet below. Children who were probably looking up at the stars right now, unaware that their world stood on the brink of conquest or annihilation. "Has anyone in this room ever backed down from a fight?" Park asked, his voice steady despite the circumstances. "No, sir," came the chorus of responses. "Have any of you ever seen a human being willingly surrender their freedom?" "No, sir." Park Ji-won smiled grimly, the expression transforming his face from worried commander to determined warrior. "Then we have our answer." He activated the communication system, broadcasting on the same frequency the aliens had used. "This is Commander Park Ji-won of the Earth Defense Force. We decline your generous offer. All units, prepare for battle. Today, we show them what humans are made of." Aboard the massive Vorthan flagship, General Vextar received the human response with a mixture of amusement and disbelief. The reptilian commander had overseen the conquest of 47 worlds, and never had a primitive species chosen to resist the overwhelming might of the Empire. His scaled face twisted into what might have been a smile. "Foolish humans," he hissed to his bridge crew. "They choose death over servitude. Begin the assault." The first Vorthan energy blast lit up the darkness of space like a miniature sun, striking defense platform Alpha with devastating force. The massive structure, built from decades of human engineering and hope, shuddered under the impact before exploding in a brilliant shower of metal and fire. The shockwave rippled outward, and Commander Park Ji-won felt it even through the reinforced hull of the defense station. "Alpha platform is gone," Lieutenant Kim Min-ho shouted over the alarms that now filled the bridge. "They're concentrating fire on our defensive positions." Squadron leader Choi Hyuna was already in her fighter, leading the first wave of Earth's defenders into the chaos. Her modified interceptor, painted with the blue and white colors of the Earth Defense Force, screamed through space at maximum burn. Behind her, 11 more fighters followed in tight formation, their pilots young men and women who had trained for this moment their entire lives. "Dragon Squadron, this is Dragon Leader." Hyuna's voice crackled through the comm system. "We're going in hot. Remember your training and watch each other's backs. These aliens might be big, but we're faster." The Vorthan cruisers were like floating cities, their hulls bristling with weapon towers and energy cannons. As the human fighters approached, defensive turrets began tracking their movements, filling the space round them with deadly streams of plasma fire. The smaller human ships darted between the massive alien vessels like angry wasps, their movements unpredictable and aggressive. Flight Officer Yoon Taijin pulled his fighter into a sharp dive, narrowly avoiding a blast that would have vaporized his cockpit. "Dragon Leader, they're adapting to our flight patterns. These aren't automated systems. Copy that." "Dragon 4, Hyuna replied, banking hard to avoid another salvo. "Switch to random evasion patterns. Don't let them predict your movements." She lined up her targeting computer on one of the Vorthan weapon towers and fired a burst from her plasmic cannons. The bolts struck the alien structure, causing it to spark and go dark. But for every small victory, the humans were taking losses. Dragon 7 exploded in a ball of fire as a Vorthan beam weapon found its mark. Dragon 9 went spinning out of control, its pilot unconscious from the G-forces as his damaged ship tumbled toward Earth's atmosphere. "They're targeting the defense platforms." Hyuna called over the comm as she watched another human installation disappear in a flash of alien fire. "Taijin, take your wing and protect Sector 7. Don't let them destroy Platform Charlie." Taijin acknowledged the order and peeled away with 3 other fighters. Diving toward the threatened platform, the structure was massive by human standards. A kilometer-long construct of steel and composite armor that housed dozens of rail guns and missile batteries. But compared to the Vorthan dreadnoughts, it looked fragile and exposed. Down on Earth's surface, Ground Commander Namjasu stood in the war room beneath the Rocky Mountains, surrounded by holographic displays showing the battle raging above. The images were not encouraging. Red dots representing human forces were disappearing one by one, while the blue markers of the alien fleet remained largely intact. "Ma'am, we're losing the orbital battle," reported Major Park Songwa, his voice tight with controlled fear. "At this rate, we'll have no defensive grid left within the hour." Nan Jasu was a veteran of the Mars Colony Wars, a conflict that had taught humanity hard lessons about warfare in space. She understood better than most what the loss of orbital superiority would mean for Earth. The orbital battle isn't going well, she said, intercommunicator, speaking directly to Admiral Ko Sunwoo at Pacific Command. "We need to prepare for ground invasion. How long do we have?" The Admiral's voice came back through the speakers. "Based on current engagement rates, maybe 6 hours before they achieve complete orbital dominance. After that, they can land wherever they want," the Admiral's pause was telling. "Understood. Begin evacuation of major population centers, and Jasu, prepare the continental defense systems. If they want Earth, they're going to have to fight for every meter of it, above the planet." The Vorthan fleet was discovering that conquering Earth would not be the simple matter they had expected. General Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display with growing irritation. The human ships were small and primitive, but they fought with a ferocity that his forces had never encountered. "Status report," he demanded from his tactical officer. "General, we have destroyed 4 of their orbital platforms and approximately 30% of their fighter complement. However, our own casualties are higher than projected. These humans are using unconventional tactics." "Unconventional how?" "They're ramming our ships, sir. When their weapons fail to penetrate our shields, they're flying directly into our hull structures. We've lost 6 cruisers to kamikaze attacks." Vextar's reptilian features twisted with something between respect and disgust. "Savages, but effective savages." Meanwhile, in the research labs beneath Geneva, Engineer Omensiok was working frantically with his team to find some advantage in the technological gap between human and Vorthan weapons. Banks of computers hummed round him as they analyzed captured alien transmissions and energy readings from the battle above. "I've got an idea," he said to his team, his eyes red from staring at data streams for hours. "If we can reverse the polarity on their shield frequency, we might be able to create a resonance cascade that would overload their defensive systems." Dr. Kim Yu-yeon, his lead physicist, looked up from her calculations. "The power requirements would be enormous. We'd need to channel the entire output of a fusion reactor through a single focusing ray. Then we build one," Mensiok replied grimly, "because if we don't find a way to level the playing field, there won't be an Earth left to defend." The battle continued to rage above their heads, each explosion in space representing human lives lost in the defense of their home world. But in the depths of Earth's research facilities, brilliant minds were working to turn human ingenuity into the weapon that might save them all. The Vorthan dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere like burning meteors, their hulls glowing red-hot from atmospheric friction. Each vessel was the size of a city block, carrying hundreds of alien warriors equipped with weapons that humanity had never seen before. The first wave targeted major population centers, and Seoul found itself directly in their path. Captain Lee saw he crouched behind the wreckage of an overturned bus, her marine combat arm scratched and dented from 3 hours of continuous fighting. Round her, the streets of Seoul looked like a war zone from humanity's darkest nightmares. Buildings lay in ruins, their facades blown away by alien energy weapons. Smoke rose from countless fires, and the air itself seemed to crackle with residual energy from the ongoing battle. "Marine Actual, this is Bravo Squad," came the voice of Private Kang Yunji with the comm system. "We've got eyes on the enemy. They're setting up some kind of command post in the old financial district. Sahi peered round. The corner of her hover, watching a group of Vorthan soldiers advance down the street. The aliens stood nearly 8 feet tall, their bodies covered in sophisticated armor that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. Their weapons were sleek, curved devices that fired concentrated beams of energy capable of melting through steel. Roger that. Bravo Squad. What's your tactical assessment, Mum? They're using some kind of energy weapon that cuts through our body armor like paper. We've lost half our squad trying to engage them conventionally. These things are way beyond anything we've faced before. Sergeant Bai Dongyun, a 20-year veteran of Earth's military conflicts, crawled up beside Sahi. His weathered face was grim as he studied the alien advance. Captain, we can't fight them head to head. Their technology is too advanced. But I've got an idea. I'm listening, Sergeant. Dongyun pulled out a collection of improvised explosive devices that he'd been crafting from salvaged materials. These aliens might have superior weapons, but they're fighting on our world. We know every building, every sewer system, every underground tunnel. And humans don't fight fair when survival is at stake. The sergeant's plan was simple but effective. Using the city's underground subway system, the Marine squads would move beneath the alien positions and set up ambush points. Instead of engaging in direct firefights, they would use guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run attacks, and improvise weapons to level the playing field. Bravo Squad. This is Marine Actual. So he spoke into her calm. We're changing tactics. Use the subway tunnels to get behind enemy lines. Target their equipment, not their soldiers directly. If we can't match their firepower, we'll outsmart them. Private Yunji acknowledged the order and began leading her squad through a damaged subway entrance. The underground tunnels were dark and filled with debris, but they provided cover from the alien sensors. As they moved through the darkness, Yunji couldn't help but think about her family, evacuated to safety in the mountain shelters hours before the invasion began above ground. The Vorthan forces were discovering that conquering Earth would not be as simple as their previous campaigns. Their energy weapons were devastating against conventional targets, but the humans seemed to vanish into the urban landscape like ghosts. Buildings that appeared empty would suddenly erupt with explosive charges, collapsing entire structures. Onto alien patrol units. Commander Zeta, one of the Vorthan officers, reported to his superior, "We're experiencing unexpected resistance. The human forces are using unconventional tactics. They are not engaging us directly." The alien commander, his scaled face showing irritation, studied the tactical display. These creatures are more cunning than anticipated. Increase patrol frequencies and scan for underground movement. But the humans were already adapting, Sergeant. Dongyun had positioned his improvised explosives in strategic locations throughout the city, turning Seoul's infrastructure into a weapon itself. When a Vorthan patrol crossed a key intersection, precisely timed detonations would bring down surrounding buildings, creating temporary barriers and separating the enemy forces. Meanwhile, hundreds of kilometers above the battlefield, Commander Park Ji-won was receiving a communication that would change the course of the entire war. Engineer Oh Min-sik's voice crackled through the speakers on the defense station's bridge, filled with excitement and exhaustion. "Sir, I've found their weakness. After analyzing the energy patterns from their ships, I discovered something incredible. Their shields operate on a rotating frequency system, cycling through different energy states to deflect various types of weapons." Park Ji-won leaned forward in his command chair. "What does that mean for us?" "It means there's a vulnerability, sir. For exactly 0.3 seconds during each cycle, there's a gap in their shield coverage. It's incredibly brief, but if we can time our attacks perfectly, we can penetrate their defenses." Lieutenant Kim Min-ho, monitoring the conversation from his tactical station, looked up with interest. "Sir, that's a window smaller than human reaction time. We'd need computer-assisted targeting to hit that gap. Can you exploit it?" Park asked the engineer. Oh-min-sik's voice carried a mixture of confidence and desperation. "Give me Lieutenant Kim Min-ho's best pilot and a single fighter equipped with my modified targeting system. I will show these aliens what human ingenuity looks like." The plan was audacious and dangerous. They would modify a single fighter with Oh-min-sik's experimental targeting computer, capable of calculating the precise moment when the Vorthen shields would be vulnerable. The pilot would have to fly directly into the heart of the enemy fleet, surviving long enough to deliver a single, perfectly timed shot. "Sir," Min-ho said, reviewing the pilot roster, "I recommend Lieutenant Park Jin-ho. She's our best pilot and has experience with experimental systems." Within the hour, Park Jin-ho was in the hangar, watching as Oh-min-sik's team installed the modified targeting computer in her fighter. The system looked crude compared to the sleek alien technology they were facing, but it represented humanity's greatest strength, the ability to adapt and innovate under pressure. "The targeting computer will give you a countdown to the shield vulnerability window," Oh-min-sik explained as he made final adjustments. "You'll have exactly 0.3 seconds to fire and hit your target, miss. And you'll be flying directly into the most heavily defended position in their fleet." Park Jin-ho nodded grimly. "What's the target?" "The flagship's main reactor. If we can overload it, the explosion should take out at least a dozen sounding ships and disrupt their fleet coordination." As the modified fighter launched from the defense station, both the ground battle in Seoul and the space battle above Earth were reaching critical points. The fate of humanity now rested on the courage of individual soldiers, the ingenuity of desperate engineers, and the hope that human determination could overcome technological superiority. The war for Earth had become a test of everything that made humanity unique: creativity, adaptability, and the absolute refusal to surrender in the face of impossible odds. Lieutenant Park Jin-ho had been selected for the mission, but as she approached the launch bay, another pilot stepped forward. Lim Ji-yeon, a veteran of countless deep space patrols, placed her hand on Jin-ho's shoulder with a sad smile. "I'm sorry, Lieutenant, but this one's mine," Ji-yeon said quietly. "I've been flying longer than anyone in this squadron, and I know these systems better than my own heartbeat." Park Jin-ho started to protest, but Ji-yeon shook her head. "My daughter is safe in the mountain shelters. My husband died defending the Mars colonies 5 years ago. I have nothing left to lose, but everything to fight for." Commander Park Ji-won watched from the observation deck as Ji-yeon climbed into the modified fighter. The sleek vessel had been stripped of unnecessary equipment and loaded with Oh-min-sik's experimental torpedo, a weapon that looked more like a piece of art than a military device. Its surface was covered in intricate sensor arrays and targeting computers, all designed to exploit the tiny vulnerability in the Vorthen shields. "Final systems check." Oh-min-sik's voice crackled through the comm system. "Ji-yeon, remember, you need to get within 2 kilometers of the flagship for the targeting system to work properly. The electromagnetic interference from their shields will disrupt the sensors at longer range." Ji-yeon strapped herself into the pilot's seat, her hands moving across the controls with practiced precision. "Understood. 2 kilometers. Wait for the targeting computer to lock onto the shield frequency. Then fire when the window opens," as her fighter launched from the defense station. Ji-yeon felt the familiar rush of acceleration pushing her back into her seat. Round her, the battle continued to rage. Human fighters darted between the massive alien vessels, their weapons creating brilliant flashes of light against the darkness of space. But the Vorthen fleet remained largely intact. their superior technology making them nearly invulnerable to conventional attacks. Phoenix Leader, this is Control, came Commander Park Ji-won's voice through her headset. You have a clear path to the target. All remaining squadrons are providing cover fire to keep the enemy fighters off your back. Ji-won pushed her fighter to maximum burn. Diving directly toward the Vorthen flagship, the massive ship loomed before her like a metallic mountain, its hull bristling with weapon batteries that immediately began tracking her approach. Streams of plasma fire filled the space round her as she weaved between the deadly energy beams. Almost there, she whispered to herself, watching the distance indicator count down. 3 kilometers, 2.5. Come on, just a little closer. A blast from a Vorthen beam weapon passed so close to her cockpit that she could feel the heat. Through the reinforced glass, her fighter shuddered as debris from a nearby explosion peppered the hole, but the engines continued to function. The targeting computer began beeping frantically as it detected the flagship's shield frequencies. Target acquired, the computer announced in its mechanical voice. Shield cycle analysis complete. Preparing firing solution. Ji-won gripped the weapon controls, her finger hovering over the firing trigger. The torpedo was armed and ready, but she would only get one chance. If she missed the 0.3-second window, the weapon would simply bounce off the Vorthen shields like a pebble thrown at a tank. For Earth, she whispered, watching the countdown timer on her display. For humanity, for everyone who can't fight back. The targeting computer began its final countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fire. Ji-won pressed the trigger at the exact moment the computer indicated. The modified torpedo launched from her fighter, its sensors guiding it toward the precise point where the flagship's shields would be momentarily vulnerable. For a brief instant, nothing seemed to happen. Then the torpedo struck the Vorthen ship's hull directly, and the universe erupted in light. The explosion was unlike anything the human forces had ever seen. Homenseek's weapon had been designed not just to penetrate the shield, but to overload the flagship's main reactor. The resulting detonation tore through the massive vessel like a chain reaction. Secondary explosions replaying along its length as power systems failed and ammunition stores detonated. The shockwave from the explosion destroyed 6 nearby Vorthen cruisers and sent dozens of others tumbling out of control. More importantly, the loss of the flagship threw the entire alien fleet into chaos. Without their command ship, the Vorthen forces lost their coordination, their tactical communications, and their unified battle plan. Down on Earth's surface, Captain Lee So-hee watched through her binoculars as the massive explosion lit up the night sky. All units, this is Marine Actual. She called over the comm system. The orbital situation has changed. Now's our chance. The ground battle in Seoul had been a brutal affair of urban warfare, with human forces using every trick they knew to slow the Vorthen advance. Sergeant Bai Dong-yeon had turned entire city blocks into kill zones, while Private Kang Yoon-ji led strike teams through the subway tunnels to attack enemy supply lines, push them back. So-hee commanded, rising from her cover and signaling her Marines to advance, show them that humans protect their home. The coordinated assault began simultaneously across the planet. In London, Major Park Song-woo led his forces in a charge against the alien landing zones. In Tokyo, Colonel Kim Jae-yeon's mechanized units rolled forward with renewed determination. In New York, Captain Hwang Yuna's urban warfare specialists emerged from their hiding places to strike at confused Vorthen patrols. Aboard the surviving Vorthen vessels, General Vekstar pulled himself from the wreckage of his command center. The explosion had damaged his flagship's sister ship, leaving him injured and his communications disrupted. His scaled face was marked with burns, and his armor was cracked from the shockwave. Status report. He demanded from his surviving officers. General, we've lost contact with 40% of our fleet. The flagship is completely destroyed, and our ground forces are reporting organized resistance across all landing zones. Vexstar stared at the tactical display, watching as red markers indicating human counterattacks appeared across the planet. These humans, they fight like demons. They care nothing for their own lives. How do we defeat an enemy that welcomes death before defeat? His tactical officer, a younger Vorthan with fear in his reptilian eyes, spoke hesitantly. Sir, perhaps we should consider withdrawal. We've never faced resistance like this. Withdrawal. Vexstar's voice was filled with disbelief. The Empire does not retreat from primitive worlds. But even as he spoke, reports continued to pour in from across the battlefield. Human forces were advancing on all fronts, their morale boosted by the destruction of the flagship. The aliens' technological advantage was being neutralized by human ingenuity, determination, and sheer bloody-minded refusal to surrender. At Earth's command center, Admiral Ko Sanwoo stood before a wall of monitors, showing the global situation. For the first time since the invasion began, the tactical display showed green markers advancing and red markers retreating. The turning point had come, and humanity was seizing it with both hands. Colonel Song Jae-in, the Admiral spoke into his communicator. Are your orbital cannons ready? From deep within the Rocky Mountains, where humanity's most powerful weapons had been hidden from the initial alien bombardment, came the reply, ready and waiting. Admiral, the enemy fleet is in disarray. We have clear targeting solutions on -1 enemy vessels. Admiral Ko Sanwoo smiled grimly. Then let's send these invaders home. Fire at will. The massive rail guns hidden in Earth's mountains roared to life, sending projectiles streaking toward the confused Vorthan fleet. The tide of battle had turned, and humanity was no longer just defending their world. They were fighting to reclaim it. The mountain-based railguns fired their first salvo at exactly 03:07 hours Earth time. The massive tungsten projectile streaked through space at incredible velocity, striking 3 Vorthan cruisers before their crews could even react. The alien ships, already damaged and disoriented from the flagship's destruction, crumpled under the kinetic impact like paper crushed in a giant's fist. Direct hits on targets Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie, reported Colonel Song Jae-in from the underground command center. Enemy vessels are breaking formation. They are trying to retreat beyond our firing range. But the humans weren't done. All across Earth, hidden weapon systems that had been built in secret over the past decade began revealing themselves. Admiral Ko Sanwoo had learned from humanity's earlier conflicts that the key to surviving an invasion was to make the enemy believe they had destroyed all your weapons, then strike back when they least expected it. Private Park Seung-min crouched in the ruins of downtown Seoul, his rifle trained on a group of Vorthan soldiers who were attempting to regroup near their damaged landing craft. The young Marine had been fighting for 2 straight days without sleep, sustained only by military rations and pure determination. His uniform was torn and dirty, but his eyes burned with the fire of someone defending his home. Bravo team. This is Seung-min, he whispered into his comm unit. I count 12 enemy soldiers trying to reach their transport. They look confused and scared. Copy that, Seung-min, came the reply from Sergeant Bai Dong-yeon. Take them down. Show them what happens when they mess with Earth. The battle that followed was swift and decisive. The Vorthan soldiers, cut off from their command structure and facing humans who knew every inch of the terrain, found themselves completely outmatched. Within minutes, the alien landing zone was in human hands, and another enemy transport was burning in the Seoul streets. Similar scenes played out across the planet in London, Major Park Song-woo led a charge across Westminster Bridge, his forces driving the remaining Vorthan troops back to the Thames. In Tokyo, Colonel Kim Jae-un's tank units rolled through the streets like an unstoppable tide, their weapons finally able to penetrate the alien armor now that the enemy's coordination was broken. But perhaps the most remarkable transformation was seen in General Hong Yuna, Earth's most senior military commander. The 70-year-old veteran had spent the first day of the invasion coordinating the global defense from a bunker beneath Geneva. But as the tide turned, she emerged to personally lead the counterattack in Western Europe. "I've been fighting wars for 40 years, she told her staff officers as she strapped on body armor. "I'll be damned if I'm going to miss the most important battle in human history." Yuna's forces struck the main Vorthan command post in the French countryside with devastating effect. The aliens, already reeling from the loss of their flagship, found themselves facing a coordinated assault from air, land, and sea. Human fighters screamed overhead, dropping precision-guided munitions on alien positions, while ground forces advanced with a ferocity that left the Vorthan commanders stunned in space. The battle was equally decisive. Commander Park Ji-won had ordered every remaining human vessel to press the attack while the enemy was in disarray. The small Earth fleet, outnumbered but no longer outgunned thanks to Ominsik's discoveries, struck at the scattered Vorthan ships with deadly precision. All units concentrate fire on the heavy cruiser at bearing to 7 Mark 5. Park commanded from the bridge of the defense station. "Their shields are down, and they're trying to retreat." Lieutenant Kim Min-ho coordinated the attack from his tactical station, his fingers dancing across the controls as he directed the human fleet. Direct hits on target. Enemy vessel is venting atmosphere and losing power. The space battle raged for 3 full days, with neither side giving quarter, but gradually the superior numbers of the Vorthan fleet began to mean less and less. The humans fought with a creativity and determination that the aliens had never encountered. When conventional weapons failed, they improvised. When their ships were damaged, they repaired them with salvaged parts. When they were outnumbered, they used tactics that turned the enemy's size against them. Captain Lee So-hee, now coordinating the global ground assault, watched the tactical displays with growing amazement. "I've never seen anything like this," she told her staff. "Every human unit on the planet is advancing simultaneously. It's like the entire species has decided to fight as one." The Vorthan forces, meanwhile, were discovering that their usual tactics were useless against an enemy that refused to accept defeat. Their energy weapons, designed to demoralize primitive species into surrender, only seemed to make the humans fight harder. Their massive ships, built to intimidate, became targets for increasingly desperate and creative human attacks on the 3rd day, as the sun rose over a scarred but unbowed Earth. The last major Vorthan stronghold fell. General Vekstar, commanding from his damaged vessel in high orbit, finally accepted what his tactical computers had been telling him for hours. The invasion had failed. "All units, this is command." He broadcast to his remaining forces. "Begin withdrawal to hyperspace jump points. The conquest of this world is no longer feasible." As the alien fleet began its retreat, Vekstar sent one final message to Earth. His voice, when it came through the human communication systems, carried a tone of grudging respect that surprised everyone who heard it. "We have conquered 100 worlds, but never have we faced warriors like these humans. They fight not just for territory, but for something we do not understand: hope." Commander Park Ji-won stood on the bridge of the defense station, surrounded by his crew. The faces round him showed exhaustion, relief, and pride in equal measure. Lieutenant Kim Min-ho, Captain Lee So-hee, Engineer Omin Seok, And all the brave souls who had defended Earth looked out at the stars where the last Vorthan ships were disappearing into hyperspace. Today, Park announced, his voice carrying across the comm system to every human military unit on and around Earth. Humanity proved that we will never bow to tyranny. We may be one small planet, but our spirit is infinite. The galaxy will remember. This day, Engineer Umensiok, exhausted but proud, looked at his fellow humans through the bridge's viewport. His experimental weapons had turned the tide of battle, but he knew that technology alone hadn't won the war. They came here thinking we were weak because we're young. They learned that being young means we still have everything to fight for. As the last Vorthan ship disappeared into hyperspace, Earth stood free. The planet bore the scars of battle, but its people had proven something that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. Humanity had faced the greatest military force in known space and emerged victorious, not through superior technology or overwhelming numbers, but through courage, sacrifice, and the absolute refusal to surrender. The invasion was over. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. Earth had earned its place among the stars through blood, determination, and the unbreakable spirit of a species that would rather die free than live in chains. The end.